So as I say, we will have 2 heats coming up. And in the meantime, we'll keep you across what's happening in terms of hammer qualification. And then afterwards, pole vault when that gets underway. Well, we're talking about the French pedigree in this event. And this is Djalali Bedrani, who was 4th at the European Indoors. 8:13 season's best at the Marrakesh Diamond League. And then over to Osama Zoglami, bronze medalist from 2 years ago. Also fastest time of the year in Marrakesh, 8:19.54. In fact, what you'll see is that many of these men have all been in the same races together. I suppose there aren't too many high-quality elite steeplechase races. That's one reason for it. Picking out also Karl Babendorf of Germany. So he was 5th on home soil, of course, at the last edition of these championships in Munich. And he's one of the improvers this year, one of a few improvers this year, taking 2.7 seconds off his lifetime best this season. Fastest time of 8:16.84 in Horso in Poland. And then Mark Pearce of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Fantastic opportunity for him. Previously a finalist at the World University Games. And also been to the World Schools Championships. But in terms of major championship at senior level, one of the big 4, if you like, then this is his first. So now underway in this race. Of course, 2 years ago, the final won by Topi Raitanen for Finland, but prior to that, 5 times by Mahedin Mekissi Benabad. Many of these men have run well at Marrakesh Diamond League, or that Horso race, or in Huelva at the end of April. And talking of Spain, you can see Alejandro Quijada at the front of this, 8:24.38. He's improved to this year. So 7.5 laps of the track for these men. First heat of 2. And it's the first 8 in each heat that will progress through to the final. As we're saying, Daniel Arquette, the best time in Europe this year, 8:12.28. And he will go in the second heat in a few moments' time.
You could argue that the second heat's slightly more loaded in terms of seeding and quality of athletes and credentials of the athletes competing in that heat, but it's still a very good heat indeed. But with 8 to go through, no fastest non-automatic qualifiers these days, with the change in rules as dictated, if you like, by the World Athletics, changing the qualification measures. And our co-commentator Tim Hutchings, who has a great endurance background, very much of the opinion that this is the best way to go for championship racing, rather than have different conditions and then the second or later heats, the men in those heats knowing what they need to do and obviously running a little bit faster and keeping the pace quicker.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? If the athletes support it, then ultimately it's for the best.
I haven't heard of much pushback on the change of rules, I have to say.
Always when there's an initial change of rules, sometimes they can be pushed back, and there will be situations where an athlete will think, well, actually, had it been the previous system, I actually would have made it based on position. And they'll look at that, might reflect on that, hopefully not for too long, but once we get used to something and it seems to work and has to support the athletes, then it'll be for the best.
So this is Yassine Bouhi at the front, taking the lead. Man who's got good flat speed, 6 times national indoor champion over 1,500 metres, and personal best of 3:37 for the 1,500 metres. So he's also got some good times to his name, over 10 kilometres on the road as well, and has had a couple of outings on the roads during the early part of the season. As we see Delfandra just go through, 3:04.69, so a very pedestrian first kilometre.
Yeah, incredibly so, but now starting to push on a little. Yeah, it's interesting with Bowie, though, because he's made 6.6 seconds improvement this year. First steeplechase was in 2021. Another who ran quickly, that personal best you mentioned, in Horso.
Well, that first kilometre in this first heat of the men's steeplechase was only a few tenths faster than Stella Ruto ran in the first heat yesterday to run a ultimately 9:30, but at the time it was the fastest qualifier ever in a European Championships women's 3,000 metre steeplechase. That's Rattinger going up to the front, the Austrian. He's a man who will certainly fancy his chances of getting into the final with a personal best of 8:26 this year and has improved to that mark earlier this year. Zouglami, well, we've seen a lot of Zouglami and European athletics events. Osama Zinzagli has featured quite prominently in events like the European Team Championships over the years. He's been a stalwart of the Italian team, and I'm sure that morale in the Italian team after that tremendous first day has been boosted sky high. It was already pretty high, as team captain Gianmarco Tamberi was explaining at the press conference on Thursday. They're really up and motivated for this, as they are the reigning European team champions from Silesia last year. So, just passed through 1,600 metres. 4:43.93. It's coming up on our commentator information system. And of course, if you want to follow all live results, including splits, go on to the European Athletics website, www.european-athletics.com.
Yes, previously coming through with 4 laps to go. It was a 68-second lap with Tobias Rattinger of Austria. Of course, already have a medal from these championships in the men's discus, a silver, leading them round. Zouglami was keen to get up onto the shoulder, though. So Zouglami from Bedrani, two of the athletes you'd expect to be at the front of this race, and the other French athlete, Nicolas Maridarou, improved to 8:16.36 this year, improved by 2 seconds in Horso. Another who was in that race, Mark Pierce, in a good position. You can just see from above that they have whittled down to a group of 9, I think, is at the front. There's an athlete that's fallen there. Belgian, it looked like Remy Schnuss, I think it is. And looked to be in some pain as well. So I hope he's all right. On to the final lap now. Bebendorf also in this group. Just has to make sure that he's in the top 8. Still too many athletes off the back of this one. More and more spread out, though. Zouglami has a look up at the big screen. Still the 2 Frenchmen behind him. Bebendorf is there. Simon Sundström of Sweden. 8:17 this year in Stockholm, just behind his teammate Emil Blomberg, who goes in the second heat. Bowie re-emerges at the front now. Mark Pierce has got a little bit of work to do to try and get into the top 8. He's in 9th place at the moment. Has to kick off. He's up against Sundström here. Does just make it. All pushing and shoving, charging their way through. Athlete there right on the inside, almost pushing those in front to give himself some space. 8:34. 8:33.63 officially for Djilali Bedrani coming through, and Simon Sundström appeared to one that just missed out, and it was Damien Visch